The silent threat. For thousands of years, Earth had been a quiet, forgotten world on the edge of the galaxy. The human race had disappeared from the galactic stage, its once mighty fleets left in ruins. No one remembered Earth's glory, and no one cared. Humanity had been defeated long ago. But deep within the dark corners of space, something was stirring. The Galactic Empire, a vast and powerful force, ruled over the stars. Its ships traveled from one planet to another, claiming worlds as their own, imposing their will on the weak. They thought they were unstoppable. They had crushed every race that had dared to resist, leaving them broken and conquered. And Earth, they believed, was no different, a planet lost to time, a mere memory of the past. But the Empire had no idea how wrong they were. In the silence of space, far from the Empire's reach, something began to awaken. Hidden beneath the surface of Earth, buried deep within the planet's crust, were the remnants of a forgotten war. Ancient warships, massive, powerful, and terrifying, lay in wait. These ships had once been humanity's greatest weapons, capable of defeating any force that dared challenge them. And now, after thousands of years of dormancy, they were stirring to life. It started as a low hum, barely noticeable at first. The ancient ships, long forgotten, began to power up their dormant systems. Energy surged through their dark hulls, and old engines roared to life. The first signal was faint, a ripple in space that barely caught the attention of anyone. But to those who were listening, it was a warning, a message that Earth was not as forgotten as the galaxy thought. On Earth, no one knew that the ships had begun to stir. The planet's inhabitants were focused on their daily lives, unaware of the ancient threat that was about to rise from the shadows. However, deep beneath the ground, in a hidden base built centuries ago, scientists were working on something that would change the course of history. They had discovered the ancient warships, and now they were trying to understand them. The technology was beyond anything they had ever seen, and as they examined the ships, they realized that these were not just relics of the past. They were humanity's last hope. Back in the stars, the Galactic Empire continued to expand its reach. The Emperor, sitting comfortably on his throne, had no fear of any rebellion. He was sure that the galaxy was his to command. The Empire had crushed every world that had defied them, and now they were turning their attention to Earth. The Emperor ordered a fleet to set course for the planet. Their mission was simple: demand Earth's surrender and bring the planet under the Empire's control. Unbeknownst to the Empire, their decision would prove to be the greatest mistake they had ever made. As the Empire's fleet neared Earth, the ancient warships powered up at full strength. They had been waiting for this moment for centuries. Each ship was equipped with weapons so advanced that no empire, no matter how powerful, could withstand them. The ship's systems hummed to life, and their vast weapons began to charge. The humans, who had been silent for so long, were about to make their return. The first wave of the Empire's ships entered Earth's orbit without incident, unaware of the forces lying dormant beneath them. The humans had not yet shown any signs of resistance. Perhaps the rumors of Earth's power were exaggerated. Perhaps the planet was as weak as they had been led to believe. But as the fleet approached the planet's surface, something incredible happened. The silent warships, once hidden from the galaxy, began to rise from their secret hangars deep within the Earth. One by one, massive ships, unlike anything the Empire had ever seen, emerged from the depths. They glided through the atmosphere with a grace that belied their enormous size. Their hulls gleamed in the sunlight, and their weapon systems began to glow with deadly energy. The Galactic Empire's fleet halted in shock as the human ships revealed themselves. The ships were ancient, their designs outdated by thousands of years, but their power was undeniable. The Empire had never seen anything like them. These warships were not just advanced, they were powerful beyond measure. And now, they were ready to fight. The Empire's fleet attempted to send a warning, to demand Earth's surrender, but the humans had no intention of obeying. Earth's ancient warships locked onto the Empire's fleet, their weapons primed and ready to strike. A moment of silence hung in the air before the first missile was fired. The silent threat. For thousands of years, Earth had been a quiet, forgotten world on the edge of the galaxy. The human race had disappeared from the galactic stage, its once mighty fleets left in ruins. No one remembered Earth's glory, and no one cared. Humanity had been defeated long ago. But deep within the dark corners of space, something was stirring. The Galactic Empire, a vast and powerful force, ruled over the stars. Its ships traveled from one planet to another, claiming worlds as their own, imposing their will on the weak. They thought they were unstoppable. They had crushed every race that had dared to resist, leaving them broken and conquered. And Earth, they believed, was no different, a planet lost to time, a mere memory of the past. But the Empire had no idea how wrong they were. In the silence of space, far from the Empire's reach, something began to awaken. Hidden beneath the surface of Earth, buried deep within the planet's crust, were the remnants of a forgotten war. Ancient warships, massive, powerful, and terrifying, lay in wait. These ships had once been humanity's greatest weapons, capable of defeating any force that dared challenge them. And now, after thousands of years of dormancy, they were stirring to life. It started as a low hum, barely noticeable at first. The ancient ships, long forgotten, began to power up their dormant systems. Energy surged through their dark hulls, and old engines roared to life. The first signal was faint, a ripple in space that barely caught the attention of anyone. But to those who were listening, it was a warning. A message that Earth was not as forgotten as the galaxy thought. On Earth, no one knew that the ships had begun to stir. The planet's inhabitants were focused on their daily lives, unaware of the ancient threat that was about to rise from the shadows. However, deep beneath the ground, in a hidden base built centuries ago, scientists were working on something that would change the course of history. They had discovered the ancient warships, and now they were trying to understand them. The technology was beyond anything they had ever seen, and as they examined the ships, they realized that these were not just relics of the past. They were humanity's last hope. Back in the stars, the Galactic Empire continued to expand its reach. The Emperor, sitting comfortably on his throne, had no fear of any rebellion. He was sure that the galaxy was his to command. The Empire had crushed every world that had defied them, and now they were turning their attention to Earth. The Emperor ordered a fleet to set course for the planet. Their mission was simple: demand Earth's surrender and bring the planet under the Empire's control. Unbeknownst to the Empire, their decision would prove to be the greatest mistake they had ever made. As the Empire's fleet neared Earth, the ancient warships powered up at full strength. They had been waiting for this moment for centuries. Each ship was equipped with weapons so advanced that no empire, no matter how powerful, could withstand them. The ship's systems hummed to life, and their vast weapons began to charge. The humans, who had been silent for so long, were about to make their return. The first wave of the Empire's ships entered Earth's orbit without incident, unaware of the forces lying dormant beneath them. The humans had not yet shown any signs of resistance. Perhaps the rumors of Earth's power were exaggerated. Perhaps the planet was as weak as they had been led to believe. But as the fleet approached the planet's surface, something incredible happened. The silent warships, once hidden from the galaxy, began to rise from their secret hangars deep within the Earth. One by one, massive ships, unlike anything the Empire had ever seen, emerged from the depths. They glided through the atmosphere with a grace that belied their enormous size. Their hulls gleamed in the sunlight, and their weapon systems began to glow with deadly energy. The Galactic Empire's fleet halted in shock as the human ships revealed themselves. The ships were ancient, their designs outdated by thousands of years, but their power was undeniable. The Empire had never seen anything like them. These warships were not just advanced, they were powerful beyond measure. And now, they were ready to fight. The Empire's fleet attempted to send a warning, to demand Earth's surrender, but the humans had no intention of obeying. Earth's ancient warships locked onto the Empire's fleet, their weapons primed and ready to strike. A moment of silence hung in the air before the first missile was fired. The missile shot through space with blinding speed, striking the lead Empire ship. The explosion was so massive that it sent shockwaves through the surrounding fleet. The Empire's ships were thrown into disarray as they tried to retaliate, but the humans were ready. The warships unleashed a barrage of missiles and energy beams, cutting through the Empire's forces with surgical precision. The Galactic Empire, for the first time in its history, was on the defensive. They had underestimated the humans, and now they were about to pay the price. As the battle raged on, the humans fought with unmatched fury. The Empire's fleet tried to regroup, but they were no match for the ancient power of Earth's warships. The humans had been silent for 4,000 years, but now they were back, and the Empire's worst fear was coming true. Earth was not a forgotten world. Earth was a force to be reckoned with. The rising fury. The battle in space intensified. The once calm and orderly Galactic Empire fleet was now thrown into chaos. Their ships, sleek and powerful as they were, seemed helpless against the relentless firepower of Earth's ancient warships. Missiles streaked across the sky, leaving trails of fire and smoke. Energy beams fired from Earth's ships, tearing apart the enemy's hulls with explosive force. The Empire's commander, Admiral Kessler, gritted his teeth as he watched his fleet get torn apart before his very eyes. His pride, his empire, was crumbling. He had never encountered an enemy like this. The humans, who had been so easily dismissed as weak and primitive, were now showing the galaxy the true meaning of power. They're not supposed to exist. Admiral Kessler muttered to himself, his mind struggling to comprehend what was happening. How are they doing this? This technology, it's centuries ahead of ours. The Empire had sent a massive fleet to subdue Earth, underestimating the strength and resilience of humanity. Now, they were paying the price for their arrogance. Back on Earth, in the secretive underground bases, the humans were watching the battle unfold. Their hearts raced with a mix of fear and exhilaration. This was not just a fight for survival. It was a fight to reclaim their place in the galaxy, a fight to show the universe that they were not just a forgotten world. The ancient warships, hidden for millennia, had finally awakened, and they would not back down. "Look at them," Commander Ilara said, her voice steady but filled with awe as she watched the holographic display of the battle. "They're fighting like they've been waiting for this moment their entire lives." Beside her, a team of engineers worked furiously, making real-time adjustments to the warship systems. It was clear that the battle was going in their favor, but they couldn't afford to get complacent. The Empire was large, and this was only the beginning. "Commander," one of the engineers called out, "we've just received a message from the lead ship. The fleet is starting to regroup. They're sending reinforcements." Ilara's expression darkened. "We need to end this quickly. If they call in more ships, we won't be able to hold them off." The stakes were growing higher. The Empire had underestimated Earth, but now they were learning the hard way just how dangerous the humans could be. The battle in space raged on. Earth's warships moved with incredible precision, striking the Empire's ships with deadly accuracy. Each explosion sent a shockwave across space, the debris floating in the cold void like the remnants of an ancient battle. But despite their success, the humans knew that this wasn't over. The Empire had an infinite supply of ships, and they could keep sending reinforcements. Meanwhile, the Empire's fleet, now in disarray, sent out a distress signal to the nearest Imperial fleet for help. The call was picked up by the Imperial Command Center, where the Emperor sat, cold and calculating. "How can this be?" The Emperor roared, his hands slamming against the armrest of his throne. "How could a few ancient warships stand up to our might?" The Imperial officers around him shifted uneasily, unsure of how to answer. They had been trained to believe that the humans were nothing more than a footnote in history, a race that had been wiped out centuries ago. "Sir," one officer hesitated, "we may need to rethink our strategy. These ships, they're beyond anything we've encountered." The Emperor's face twisted in fury. "I don't care about their ships. Send the fleet to Earth. We will crush them once and for all." Back in space, Earth's warships continued to fight with unmatched precision. But they could feel the tide turning. The Empire wasn't backing down. The reinforcements were coming. The humans had to act fast. "We need to destroy their command ship," Ilara ordered, determination filling her voice. "If we take out their leadership, the rest of the fleet will fall apart. No command, no organization." The engineers nodded, adjusting their systems to focus all energy on the command ship of the Empire's fleet. Ilara's strategy was sound. If they could destroy the heart of the Empire's force, the rest of the fleet would have no choice but to retreat or fall apart in chaos. "Prepare all weapons for a full strike," Ilara ordered. The hum of the warship's engines became a steady, ominous growl as they lined up their target. The Empire's command ship was massive, but vulnerable. The humans had studied the Empire's fleet for years, and they knew its weak points. As the ships maneuvered into position, the tension in the command center of Earth's fleet reached its peak. Everyone held their breath, knowing that this one strike could decide the fate of the battle. The warships fired. A massive beam shot across space, piercing the vastness with blinding light. It struck the heart of the Empire's command ship, tearing through its defenses and sending the ship into a spiral of destruction. For a moment, everything went silent. Then the explosion rocked the space around them, and the command ship disintegrated in a burst of fire and debris. The Empire's fleet was thrown into disarray. The humans had done it. But the fight wasn't over. The reinforcements were coming. The turning point. The explosion of the Empire's command ship sent shockwaves through the galaxy. News of the devastating blows spread quickly, reaching every corner of the Galactic Empire. Across the stars, commanders and soldiers alike watched in disbelief as one of their mightiest ships was reduced to nothing but debris in the cold, unforgiving vacuum of space. The message was clear. Humanity was back, and they weren't going to bow to the Empire. On Earth, the atmosphere was a mixture of fear and exhilaration. The ancient warships had proven their power, but there was still much left to do. The Empire was not a foe that would simply roll over. Ilara, the commander of the human fleet, stood at the helm of the largest warship, watching the space battle unfold through the large windows of the command center. She knew that taking out the command ship was only the beginning. Now they had to face the full force of the Imperial reinforcements. "Reinforcements are on their way," said Lieutenant Vargas, his voice tinged with worry. "We've disabled one fleet, but they'll just send more. We won't be able to keep up this pace forever." Ilara clenched her fists. The pressure was mounting. She had never faced an enemy this powerful. The Empire was vast, and their resources were nearly limitless. But humanity had something the Empire didn't: a deep-seated fury, a drive to protect their home and their future. Earth had spent centuries in the shadows, and now it was time to show the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. "We won't stop until they're all gone," Ilara said, her voice steady and resolute. "We've waited long enough for this moment. Our ancestors fought for us to survive, and we will finish what they started." The crew aboard the warship responded with nods of agreement, their faces filled with the same fierce determination. They all knew that this was not just a battle for Earth. It was a battle for their place in the galaxy. It was a fight for their future, for their survival. As the battle raged on, the Empire's reinforcements arrived. Dozens of massive warships, each one larger and more powerful than anything humanity had ever encountered, dropped out of hyperspace. The balance of power was shifting. Humanity's fleet, although fierce and determined, was vastly outnumbered. But there was no turning back now. Ilara's warships, though fewer in number, were ready for whatever the Empire had to throw at them. "Brace for impact," shouted Lieutenant Vargas. The enemy ships began to fire. their energy beams lighting up the dark void of space like stars exploding. Humanity's warships responded in kind, unleashing a barrage of laser fire and missiles. The two fleets collided with the force of a storm, the soundless fury of space battles playing out in flashes of light and devastating explosions. On the bridge of the flagship, Elara was in complete control, issuing commands with calm precision. Each strike, each maneuver, was executed with practiced efficiency. The humans' ancient ships had a design and power that the Empire hadn't anticipated. Every ship had been engineered for one purpose: to be a weapon. And that's exactly what they were. Target their lead ship, Elara ordered. If we can take out their command again, it'll throw the Empire into chaos. The crew moved quickly, locking onto the target. The massive Imperial battleship loomed large in front of them, its weapons charging for another devastating strike. But the human fleet was faster. They fired first, sending an explosive beam straight into the heart of the Imperial ship. The explosion was massive. The Empire's ship buckled under the force of the blast, disintegrating in a spectacular eruption. The ripple effect sent shockwaves through the enemy fleet, scattering ships in every direction. For a moment, the tide of battle seemed to turn again in humanity's favor. However, the Empire was not so easily defeated. Their reinforcements were vast, and though they were momentarily stunned, they quickly regrouped. The humans had made a dent in their forces, but the fight was far from over. "They're regrouping," Vargas said. "They're preparing for another attack." Elara's mind raced. She knew that if they didn't act fast, the Empire's overwhelming numbers would wear them down. They had to break the enemy's will to fight, to make them understand that they had no chance of victory. The stakes were higher than ever. "We need to take out their communications array," Elara decided. "If we can silence their command, they'll be flying blind. No orders, no strategy. We can finish them once and for all." The crew set to work, rerouting power to the necessary systems. Earth's ships began to change course, heading straight for the heart of the enemy's fleet. The humans weren't just fighting to win. They were fighting to end the war, once and for all. As the ships neared the enemy's communications array, the Empire fired relentlessly, determined to stop them at all costs. Energy blasts surged through space, hitting Earth's ships in quick succession. The shields of the warships flickered, but they held. Humanity's warships were built to withstand the worst of the worst. They would not falter now. With a final, coordinated strike, Earth's warships fired on the communications array. The explosion that followed was blinding, and for a moment, the entire fleet went quiet. The Empire's communication system was gone, and with it, their ability to coordinate. The humans had won the day. The Empire's retaliation. The victory in the battle had left the Empire's fleet in disarray, but Earth's fleet was not without its scars. The damage was immense, and though they had taken down their enemy's communications, the victory was not as complete as it seemed. Elara stood on the command bridge, her eyes fixed on the stars outside, as the reality of their situation sank in. "We've made a dent," she said, her voice steady but tired. "But we're far from finished. The Empire will retaliate. They won't let this go." The crew was silent. They all understood the gravity of the situation. Though they had broken the Empire's communications, their enemy still possessed unmatched resources. The sheer scale of the Empire's forces was almost beyond comprehension, and they had lost many ships in the battle. What was worse, the Empire's reinforcements had already begun to arrive in waves, each more powerful than the last. "We've got a temporary advantage," Vargas said, pacing in the command center. "But we can't keep going like this. We'll run out of resources soon enough. If the Empire is smart, they'll regroup, rebuild, and come back stronger." Elara turned to face him. She had been thinking about that very thing. "And that's exactly what they'll do. But we can't afford to wait for them to regroup. If we give them time to recover, we lose. We strike again. We take the fight to them before they can recover." The crew nodded, understanding the importance of taking swift action. If the Empire was given a chance to reorganize, they would become an unstoppable force. Humanity's victory would be fleeting, and they would be wiped out. But if they acted quickly, they could keep the Empire on the defensive, forcing them to fight a war on multiple fronts. We need to find their main production facilities. Ilara continued. Their factories, shipyards, anything that can rebuild their fleet. Without those, they won't be able to keep up their war machine. The crew worked quickly, scanning through intelligence gathered from the previous battle. The Galactic Empire's supply lines were vast, but they were not invulnerable. Humanity's warships had infiltrated deep into enemy space during the battle, gathering key information that could turn the tide. After hours of analysis, the team pinpointed several key locations. The Empire's most important shipyards were hidden in a remote system, far from the front lines. It would be a dangerous mission, one that would take them deep into the heart of enemy territory. "We can't waste time," Vargas said, his voice filled with urgency. "If we don't hit them now, they'll rebuild everything we've destroyed." Ilara nodded. "Prepare the fleet. We're going after their shipyards." The Empire's response. Meanwhile, in the heart of the Galactic Empire, a council of generals and high-ranking officials sat around a massive table, their faces stern and grim. The shock of the battle still echoed through the Empire. The humans, who had been written off as insignificant, had proven themselves a formidable force. "The humans have proven themselves more dangerous than we thought," one of the generals said. "Their warships are unlike anything we've ever faced. We underestimated them." Another officer spoke up. "It's time to call for reinforcements. We need to crush them before they can become a true threat to the Empire." The Emperor's voice cut through the tension. "No, we've already made that mistake. We've underestimated Earth's potential before. If we send more ships, we risk them striking again, hitting our most critical resources." A high-ranking advisor suggested. "Then we should make them come to us. If we can lure them into a trap, we'll wipe out their fleet and end this conflict once and for all." The room fell silent as the generals considered the idea. It was risky, but it could work. The humans had shown that they would not hesitate to attack, even when the odds were stacked against them. It would be a matter of time before they tried to strike again. "We'll send false signals," the Emperor decided. "We'll lure them to a decoy site, far from their true objective. Once they arrive, we strike with everything we have." The plan was set into motion, and soon the Empire's decoy signals were broadcasting across space, leading the humans to the trap. But Earth's fleet was not easily fooled. The human fleet's countermove. Ilara was watching the battle unfold from the command center of the flagship. She had suspected the Empire would try something like this. It was too obvious. The decoy signals had been too perfect, too perfectly timed. The Empire was trying to lure them into a trap, and Ilara was not about to walk into it. "Change course," Ilara commanded. "We're not falling for their trap. We got one chance to hit their shipyards, and we're taking it. Let's move out, full speed ahead." The fleet veered off course, heading directly for the Empire's shipyards. As the human fleet broke through the trap, the Empire's forces realized their mistake. The decoys had failed. Humanity had not been fooled. But it was too late to stop them now. As the human warships approached the shipyards, the Empire's defenses scrambled to intercept them. The massive station loomed ahead, surrounded by a fleet of defensive ships and automated drones. But the humans had trained for this moment. They knew exactly what to do. Ilara's command ship led the charge, its weapon systems glowing with deadly energy. The battle for the shipyards was about to begin. The final clash. The human fleet moved swiftly toward the Empire's shipyards, their weapons primed and ready. Each ship, though battered from the previous battles, was fueled by the burning need to stop the Empire from rebuilding its devastating war machine. The deep, endless silence of space was pierced only by the hum of engines and the occasional commands crackling over the communication channels. Ilara stood at the command center of the flagship, her eyes scanning the vast expanse ahead. The shipyards loomed on the horizon, a dark and ominous presence. It was the heart of the Empire's war production, a place that had been hidden away from the prying eyes of their enemies for too long. The first wave of defense ships met them head-on. As expected, these were nothing more than disposable forces designed to slow the advance of an enemy fleet, while the Empire's true power remained behind the shadows. But they were no match for Earth's battle-hardened warships, ships that had been built for this very moment, built for the war that the Empire had initiated. "Engage," Ilara commanded, her voice calm but laced with determination. "Do not stop until their defenses are shattered." Her fleet opened fire in perfect unison. Bright flashes erupted in the cold void of space as beams of energy tore through the defense ships. The Empire's forces fought back with desperation, launching counterattacks, but their efforts were futile. Earth's ships moved like a well-oiled machine, overwhelming their enemies with precision and skill. The once proud Imperial fleet was no longer a fearsome force. It was now just a collection of dying ships, burning in the vacuum of space. Yet the shipyards were still intact, and they were heavily fortified. The true battle had just begun. The next step would be to breach the thick layers of shields and defensive structures protecting the Empire's most valuable asset, their production center. Ilara knew they had only minutes before reinforcements would arrive, and those reinforcements would be far more dangerous than anything they had faced thus far. "We need to disable the shields and destroy their defense turrets before they can send backup," Vargas shouted from his station. His hands moved swiftly across his control panels, activating various systems to assist in the assault. Ilara gave a sharp nod. "All ships, target their shield generators and heavy defense platforms. Focus fire on the weak points." The human fleet concentrated its firepower, hitting the Empire's most vulnerable spots. The massive station shook with each blow, but it didn't collapse. The shipyards were built to withstand massive attacks, designed to ensure that even in the heat of war, production would continue. However, the humans had no intention of giving the Empire that luxury. Seconds felt like hours as the battle raged. The Empire's retaliatory forces began to arrive. More ships, larger, more advanced than the ones they had previously destroyed. But it was too late for the Empire to turn the tide. The human fleet was relentless. Then, Ilara's voice cut through the chaos. "Prepare the final strike." From their hidden positions in the shadows, Earth's remaining heavy ships emerged. These ships had been kept out of sight, specifically designed for this moment. Their massive weapons were built for one purpose: to obliterate entire fleets in one concentrated assault. The larger battleships turned their formidable weapons toward the heart of the shipyards. They were ready. The Empire's ships, despite their size and power, were no match for the sheer might of the human assault. The human ships unloaded their final strike with terrifying force, sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The shipyards, once considered an indomitable fortress, began to crumble. Explosions ripped through the heart of the Empire's production center as human firepower tore into its core. The once mighty facility that had built the very ships that had terrorized humanity for so long was now a blazing inferno. Ilara stood in silence as the shipyards burned, watching as the Empire's hopes for a swift victory were reduced to nothing more than debris. The sound of the explosions reverberated through the fleet, as their mission was now complete. But Ilara knew this was not the end. The Empire would retaliate, and the war would continue. This battle may have been won, but the fight was far from over. The Empire's last hope. On the Imperial capital, news of the destruction spread like wildfire. The Emperor, who had once seen humanity as an insignificant threat, now saw them as the greatest challenge the Empire had ever faced. His once confident generals were now anxious, scrambling to understand how their overwhelming forces had been so thoroughly defeated. "How did this happen?" one of the generals demanded. "The shipyards were our last hope for victory. How could they destroy it?" The Emperor's voice was cold, filled with both anger and disbelief. "They were underestimated. Humanity has proven themselves far more dangerous than we thought. We cannot afford any more mistakes. But even in this moment of defeat, the Empire was not out of options. The Emperor's advisors scrambled for solutions, their minds turning to the next steps in this devastating war. As their defeat loomed larger, the Emperor made one thing clear: the war was not over. And it would be humanity that paid the price for underestimating the might of the Empire. The Empire strikes back. The humans had won the battle, but they knew that the war was far from over. The Empire, though reeling from the destruction of their shipyards, was far from broken. In their private chambers on the imperial capital, the Emperor seethed with fury, but his mind was already turning to the next phase of the conflict. "They will pay for this humiliation," the Emperor muttered to his generals, his voice icy. "Their fleet is strong, but it's still too small to challenge us. We'll strike them when they least expect it. Prepare the full force of the Empire." The Empire was not used to losing, especially not to an enemy they had considered weak and primitive just a few short decades ago. The Emperor had underestimated humanity, but he would not make that mistake again. He gathered his most powerful fleets, and they began their march toward Earth, the heart of humanity's power. On Earth, Ilara and her fleet celebrated their hard-won victory, but there was no time to rest. The destruction of the Empire's shipyards had sent a clear message, but it had also drawn their attention. The Empire would not forgive them, and they would not forget. "We've taken a major blow to their production, but they won't stop until we're wiped out," Ilara said grimly, her voice betraying the tension that hung in the air. "Prepare for their retaliation. We've given them no choice but to come after us with everything they've got." The tension was palpable among the human fleet as they scrambled to prepare for the Empire's inevitable counterattack. Their ships, though damaged from the previous battle, were still formidable. The humans had learned to adapt quickly in the heat of war, but they knew that the Empire's response would be unlike anything they had encountered before. "Captain, incoming transmission," one of Ilara's officers called out, breaking the tense silence. Ilara took a deep breath and glanced at the screen. A hologram flickered to life, revealing an Imperial general. "Humanity," the general sneered, "you have overplayed your hand. You destroyed our shipyards, but now you will pay the price. The full might of the Empire is coming for you. Prepare for your extinction." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving nothing but the hum of the command center's consoles. Ilara's fists clenched. She had expected as much, but hearing it from the enemy's own lips made it all the more real. The Empire was coming, and they were angry. "All ships, prepare for battle," Ilara commanded. "We can't let them break through our defenses. Hold the line, no matter what it takes." In space, Earth's fleet formed a defensive line, ready to confront the Empire's vengeful onslaught. The vast darkness of space was pierced by the lights of their ships, each one a symbol of humanity's resilience and determination. But they knew the odds were stacked against them. The Empire's fleet was vast, and they had been regrouping, refueling, and repairing, while Earth's fleet had been distracted by the shipyard attack. Humanity had hurt them, but they hadn't won the war. Then the first wave of the Empire's counterattack arrived. Hundreds of warships, far more than anything humanity had faced so far, appeared from the dark void of space. The battle began instantly. Energy beams lit up the stars, and explosions echoed through the silence of space. The Empire's ships were massive and heavily armed, their firepower far exceeding anything the humans had expected. "Brace for impact," Ilara shouted, as a powerful blast shook the flagship. Shields flickered as the enemy's firepower hammered their defenses. Despite the onslaught, the human fleet held steady. Every ship knew its role, and they fought with a precision born from desperation and unity. Ilara watched as one of the Empire's destroyers was struck, its shields collapsing under the relentless barrage from humanity's forces. It was a small victory, but it felt like a glimmer of hope. "Enemy ships on all sides," one of the officers cried. "They're overwhelming us." The Empire's fleet was unyielding. Each new wave of ships pushed deeper into human territory, their weapons raining down on Earth's defenders. But the humans fought on, knowing that their very survival depended on holding their ground. On Earth, civilians huddled in bunkers, watching the conflict unfold in real time on their screens. They were terrified, but they also knew their fate was tied to the outcome of the battle in space. The entire planet held its breath as the human fleet continued to fight against overwhelming odds. Back in the fleet, Ilara was determined. We will not let them win. We've taken everything they've thrown at us so far. Now, we take the fight to them. As the battle raged, Ilara's fleet began a daring maneuver, flanking the Empire's forces and attacking from unexpected angles. The humans were outnumbered, but their tactics were unpredictable and lethal. They didn't fight like the Empire's soldiers. They fought with a ferocity and a tenacity that could not be matched. But as the battle stretched on, it became clear that the Empire's resources were far greater than humanity's. With each passing hour, more Imperial ships arrived, their numbers swelling beyond what the humans had imagined possible. "We need reinforcements," one of Ilara's officers said urgently. "If we don't get help soon, we'll be overwhelmed." Ilara clenched her jaw. There was no way to know if reinforcements could arrive in time. It was up to the human fleet now to hold the line against the Empire's wrath, and to make the Empire realize, once and for all, that humanity was not to be underestimated. Humanity's last stand. The sounds of battle filled the void of space, the constant hum of engines, the roar of weapons, and the explosions that rippled through the blackness. Humanity's fleet had fought bravely, but as the hours passed, it became increasingly clear that they were running out of options. The Empire's overwhelming numbers and firepower were beginning to push them back. Ilara stood on the bridge of the flagship, her gaze fixed on the swirling chaos outside the reinforced windows. Her crew moved frantically, relaying orders and trying to keep their defenses up. But she could see it in their eyes. They were all starting to wonder if they could win this fight. The Empire was everywhere, a relentless storm crashing down on their position. "Captain," one of her officers said, his voice strained, "our shields are down to 10%. We can't take much more of this." Ilara's heart raced. She had seen her crew hold the line, but there was only so much a ship could take before it was overwhelmed. She thought of Earth, of all the people they were fighting to protect. She had promised them that humanity would survive, but the Empire's vast fleets made that promise feel like a lie with every passing second. "We're not giving up," Ilara said firmly, turning toward the officer. "We'll hold as long as we can. Get the fighters ready for a counteroffensive. If we go down fighting." Outside the flagship, the Empire's ships moved in for the kill. But just as the final blow seemed inevitable, something unexpected happened. A sudden burst of energy erupted from the outer edge of the system, bright, sudden, and terrifying. At first, Ilara's crew thought it was a new weapon from the Empire, but then the shockwave of energy swept over them. The Empire's ships were rattled, their momentum halted for a critical moment. "Captain, we're detecting new ships," an officer reported in astonishment. "Massive energy signatures, far beyond anything we've ever seen." Ilara's eyes widened. Could it be? Were the reinforcements coming at last? The new fleet arrived quickly, descending from the outer edges of space. The ships were enormous, their dark hulls gleaming with an ominous aura. They were unlike any vessels in humanity's fleet, sleek, powerful, and seemingly unstoppable. As they moved into position, they released devastating waves of energy that ripped through the Empire's lines. It was an attack the Empire had never expected. "Who are they?" Ilara breathed. Her question was soon answered as the flagship of the new fleet transmitted a message. The hologram flickered to life, and Ilara gasped in disbelief. The voice that spoke was familiar, but different, gravelly, ancient, and filled with authority. "This is the fleet of humanity's ancient ancestors," the figure said. "We have returned." The figure was none other than the leader of the long-lost fleet, the humans who had disappeared centuries ago. This was the fleet that had been hidden, lost to time and space. And now, they were here, revealing themselves at the very moment humanity needed them the most. "We've come to ensure the survival of the human race," the figure continued. "The Empire will feel the full wrath of humanity's might." Ilara could barely believe her eyes. These were the prototypes, the ancient warships that had been abandoned, left to rust and forgotten in the depths of space. Yet, here they were, fully armed and ready for war. The energy surging from their weapons was unlike anything the Empire had encountered. The Empire's fleet faltered as the new human warships obliterated their formations with devastating precision. Every shot seemed to land with deadly accuracy, each explosion sending shockwaves through the enemy fleet. The Empire's ships, once so powerful and confident, were now scrambling to survive against this new, unexpected force. "We've got them on the run," one of Ilara's officers shouted, his voice filled with awe. But Ilara didn't celebrate. Not yet. She knew the battle wasn't over. The Empire was not a force that would be defeated easily, and their retaliation would be swift. But humanity had just gained a powerful advantage, one that even the Empire could not have predicted. "Prepare for the final assault," Ilara ordered. "We fight to the end." As the Empire's ships began to retreat, the ancient fleet moved forward, their massive weapons firing relentlessly. It was a battle like no other, a clash of human history and power, a fight that would echo through the stars. The battle stretched on for hours, the Empire desperately trying to regroup, but humanity's ancient warships were relentless. The humans had not only fought back, they had unleashed the true strength of their people. With each wave of energy that blasted through the enemy lines, the Empire's grip on victory slipped further away. Finally, the Empire's last warships were defeated. The remnants of their fleet scattered, retreating into the void. The battle was over. The humans had won, not just because of their strength, but because of their unity, their resolve, and their never-ending drive to protect their home. Ilara watched the shattered remains of the Empire's fleet drift into the emptiness of space. She could hardly believe what had just happened. Humanity, against all odds, had triumphed over one of the most powerful empires the galaxy had ever known. But more than that, they had proven to the galaxy that Earth's people were not to be underestimated. Not now. Not ever. The galaxy would remember this day, and humanity's place among the stars was no longer in question.